Hello, dear friends. My name is Vasyl Pekhno. I'm a Ukrainian journalist, and I invite all of you towards this latest update on Ukrainian battle map situation as of September the 19th. So watch this video, like it if you like, subscribe if you want, and don't forget to leave your comments below the video. It helps us to provide this analytics to more widespread auditory. So let's begin with some good news, as I have them to say to all of you, because I have really good insight about Ukrainian one location of the front line. So there are good news from our Ukrainian side. And right now, during the next 15 or a little bit more minutes, I will tell them to you. Let's begin. There is good news on our fronts. Yesterday, I was feeling a little bit dramatic and quite pessimistic about the situation in Kupiansk. In reality, there are some very serious problems here. I'm not going to take back those words, but we'll get to them later. But let's talk about the positive moments we do have. And these positive moments are connected to what's happening north of Pokrovsk. North of Pokrovsk, or the so-called Russian breakthroughs that have formed in the direction of Dobropillia. Let's briefly recall the chronology. All of this happened a month ago, actually a little more than a month ago, in August, from the 9th to the 10th of August. Such breakthroughs, even from the 8th to the 9th of August, the Russians managed to create these breakthroughs, which eventually turned into what were called rabbit ears in this direction. These ears started to be trimmed back very quickly. That is, up until today, as this operation was unfolding, the Russians were being cut off, separated, and put in uncomfortable positions here. As a result, the good news, friends, is that yesterday I had an interview with the head of the Assault Troops Directorate of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. This is a directorate, a structure that was created to unite under itself all those well-known assault regiments, the 225th, the 425th, the 33rd, the 210th, and the 1st Assault Regiment. In short, it brought together all these assault regiments, which are now our main kind of fire brigade, the Commander-in-Chief's rapid response force in various directions. It also united the 5th Assault Brigade and the assault battalions. And yesterday I spoke with the head of this directorate, a hero of Ukraine. That's Colonel Manko, Valentin Manko. What did he say? In particular about the situation in the Dobropillia direction. We talk a lot, not only about Dobropillia, but also about Zaporizhzhia and Sumy. But first and foremost, Dobropillia. There is good news related to this. According to him, the defense forces in the Dobropillia direction have essentially formed 3 more cauldrons. Over the past month, that's 3 cauldrons for the occupiers. The first cauldron was the cutting off of those rabbit ears and encircling the occupiers. As I understand it, that's in Kucherevy Yar, cauldron number 1. Then he says there was a second cauldron in the so-called rabbit head. It's right here. This happened with the liberation of the settlements of Volodymyrivka and Pankivka, which resulted from the pressure of the defense forces on the base of this rabbit head in Nikonorivka, and specifically here in Pankivka and Volodymyrivka. And cauldron number 3, which according to Manko was formed literally yesterday because the operation was completed. And yesterday, by the way, the president visited our assault units, in particular the airborne assault units in the Dobropillia direction. And the president mentioned this in a somewhat indirect way. The president announced information that supposedly we have now cleared 160 square kilometers liberated in the Dobropillia direction, and another 170 have been cleared of the enemy. Here, there are these 2 different interpretations. What does it mean that 160 have been liberated and 170 have been cleared? What is the difference between them? So, as I understand it, liberated means that we have control there, our units are stationed there, while cleared 170 means that drones may have worked there, maybe the forward units of the same assault regiments have passed through, but there is no total control or presence of our country's defense forces there. Nevertheless, Zelensky visited the Dobropillia direction just yesterday. He said that our counteroffensive operation there is ongoing. And coming back to Manko's words, what is the main point of this good news returning to the 3 cauldrons? Remember, he says 1, 2, and the 3rd cauldron, which was actually formed and finalized yesterday. But I think, well, he claims that soon we will hear more detailed information about this. Essentially, what we see here is that this entire group is at the base of this cauldron. I hope that's really the case, because for now there is no such information, but we'll see how things develop further. I hope that these gray zone incursions in the area of Razin and Novotoretsky mean exactly that. There is a river here. We have the Kazeni Toretsk. It is quite obvious that the defense forces tried along the Kazeni-Toretsk to eliminate everything to the west of it, to capture or do something with these groups. And now more and more confirmations are appearing that the occupiers are starting to surrender in greater numbers. In other words, the evidence that they are truly surrounded here actually makes sense. For example, yesterday, the 425th Assault Regiment Skelya reported that over the past week they had captured 17 enemy soldiers in the Pokrovsk and Lyman directions. However, Skelya operates a bit further south in the Novopavlivka direction. Who knows, maybe they were also operating here in the Pokrovsk area. This, in fact, serves as indirect confirmation that the occupiers are surrounded. The main group of these prisoners from the 425th are from the 110th Brigade, which is currently being heavily worn down in the Dobropillia area. So perhaps the 425th has joined in here as well. At the moment, many of our assault units are involved here. That is why Manko, as their commander, is the competent person who evaluates these actions. This is the 1st Assault Regiment, named after Kotsiu Bailo, the 425th, and the 33rd Assault Regiment, which have done truly tremendous work here. This includes the 25th Assault Battalion and the 225th Assault Battalion as well. All these units, there hasn't been a single recent liberation without their names being mentioned. That's why, in fact, very, very interesting events are unfolding here to the north of Pokrovsk. I hope that in the end we will complete this entire operation and see changes on the deep state map in particular. South of Pokrovsk, friends, unfortunately, we can't boast about having a good situation here. It's not that good, not successful, not favorable. Recently, the enemy has made advances near Pershetravnya and Zvirove. These are already basically the southern outskirts of Pokrovsk. The enemy is present here as well. And unlike the northern front, on the southern side, the enemy is taking advantage of the fact that our main attention is focused elsewhere. That's exactly why they continue to advance here. Right now, basically, we can say that the enemy is on the southern outskirts of Pokrovsk. So the situation here is far from ideal. I'll repeat that we still have a major, major battle ahead for Pokrovsk, for Menohrad, for all these areas, for Kostiantynivka, because right now the enemy has concentrated significant forces in the Dobropillia-Pokrovsk direction. They have reinforced these units not only with forces from the Kursk region, but according to Manko himself, they have also redirected units here from Zaporizhzhia and even from the Kherson direction. So we are expecting some very serious enemy strikes here. However, we are approaching these strikes with some, positive, encouraging information. Let's move on to Zaporizhzhia, which could be the site of the enemy's second strike as part of those attack locations announced by the president. And although I think that the second location will be Kupiansk in the Kharkiv region, all the signs of this are there. But in Zaporizhzhia as well, there are movements, there are relocations. In fact, in Zaporizhzhia, it is precisely in the area where exceptionally active combat is taking place in a single location. That is the Stepanohirsk area. Here too, assault units, the 33rd and 210th Assault Regiments, are operating. The 210th is constantly clearing Stepanohirsk whenever enemy infantry appears there. The 33rd Assault Regiment holds the settlement from the approaches near Plavny all the way to Primorsky. That is the former shoreline of the Dnipro riverbed that used to flow here. But after the destruction of the Kakhovka HPP dam, it no longer does. Accordingly, the enemy, as I actively talked about yesterday, traditionally moves from Plavny into the built-up area of Primorske and then tries to advance towards Stepnohirsk. At the moment, we can say that all these attempts at breakthroughs are being neutralized, and in fact, we can't really call this a breakthrough. When 2 or 3 enemy soldiers slip through, infiltrate, as they say, deeper into our lines, well, in fact, you can't really call that a breakthrough either. Moreover, it's important to understand that any such breakthrough, when the enemy appears somewhere in houses deeper within populated areas, then it takes a very long time to secure that area afterwards. Let's put it that way. All these assault units have to go through these locations on foot, checking whether there are any enemy forces there or not. So it's not just drone work. The assault troops also have to go through all of this on foot. That's why in some cases it takes more time. That's why in some places on the front, on active sections of the front line, we see these wide gray zones, because you can't say with absolute certainty that, for example, in this location, the enemy is definitely 100% gone. No, it's more of a gray zone. Until our assault troops check these locations, until they go through them, I'll repeat it again, on foot, it's probably too soon to talk about a complete sweep or full liberation. And this is the main difference in the words the president mentioned, particularly when he was in Dobropillia, speaking about liberated territories and about territories cleaned of the enemy. Besides that, let's talk about the Kharkiv section of the front, especially about Kupiansk. The situation there is really not among the best for us. Even on the deep state map, among the latest changes, there were these updates I reported yesterday about the movement and activity of the enemy in the area of Stepova Novoselivka. This is the left bank of the Oskil River. The enemy has started to probe our defenses here, which means they will be paying more and more attention to this location.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Because there had been a lull here for quite a long time. Honestly, these advances toward Kupiansk that are happening now, I have to say, they're starting to trigger me. Thoughts are starting to arise that maybe we should consider gradually moving our military group on the left bank of Kupiansk to the right bank, leaving the left bank area of Oskil. Why? Because we see that, in fact, there are basically no roads here. You can see that the Oskil River flows everywhere here. Here it is. All of this is the Oskil. And the one and only route our troops have to get out of this area is right here, right at this location in Kupiansk itself. And how close the enemy has now approached this location. That is, you can see that the gray zone practically reaches it. Yes, yesterday there were comments from officials, the spokesperson of the Joint Forces Operation Dnipro and the head of the Center for Countering Disinformation saying like, oh, there's no need to dramatize the situation in Kupiansk. There is no enemy in the center, as the Russians are trying to portray, and this is enemy propaganda. But in my understanding, the problem is not whether the enemy is in the center. Okay, let's say the enemy isn't in the center, but they are on the northern outskirts of Kupiansk. The problem is that the enemy managed to get into a settlement as significant and large in terms of our current frontline realities as Kupiansk. And this gives him a huge range of opportunities to take cover there, hide, move around, change clothes, blend in with the civilian population, and simply confuse our soldiers who are trying to drive the enemy out. They are mostly driving them out, not with small arms combat, but with unmanned technologies, that is, drones. It is very difficult for a drone to detect and then destroy someone in such conditions of densely populated urban combat, which is what the fighting in Kupiansk is expected to be. And despite the fact that, yes, I will repeat myself, the enemy may not be in the center, but the very fact of their presence and being already in Kupiansk is a big problem. A major problem is that the enemy has amassed in quite large numbers around Kupiansk. This also poses a rather significant problem. And if, God forbid, they cut off this route for us, this route that is on the left bank beyond the Oskil, so to speak, then there are very big and risky issues concerning our group of troops stationed on the left bank of the Oskil. Of course, I'm not an armchair strategist. I just look at the maps, analyze them, and understand these dangers. I think the staff understands them too. I am not in a position to advise the command or insist on anything, but I definitely see this danger myself. I think and hope that the command sees it too. Moreover, I talk to the soldiers who are also holding the defense right on the left bank of the Oskil. They are very concerned about one situation which is called the Rubicon, the advanced elite Russian UAV unit, which, according to rumors, particularly from an open source analyst like Playfra, who also conducts his own analysis on social media. So he claims that the first units of the Rubicon have already started to appear in the Kupiansk area and are carrying out their operations. If Rubicon appears in Kupiansk and cuts through this orange strip, the orange line of our logistics for the left bank group beyond the Oskil, it will be a very, very serious problem. This will essentially be a repeat of the Kursk situation when Rubicon similarly destroyed our only logistical route, and at times our troops had to retreat in panic just to save themselves. This is a very serious problem, and it needs to be given attention. And regarding the fact that Rubicon is here, yes, there are such rumors. There is even a kind of heat map, let's say, from another OSINT analyst. This is Unit Observer, also a foreign OSINT analyst, who provides certain details about this Russian elite drone unit Rubicon. The map shows geolocated drone strikes carried out by Rubicon recently, or basically where they have operated. So here we see Sumy region, and we also see a large number of strikes in Pokrovsk and Kostiantinivka. And here this is sometimes in Lyman, and a very, very, very faint presence is starting to appear so far, but already noticeable in the Kupiansk area. So, well, there are rumors that Rubicon is moving here. There is no confirmation of this information. I don't know for sure whether that's true or not. because Russian war correspondents are also shouting that our most combat ready, probably one of the most combat ready units in the defense forces, is also being moved here. That's the 3rd Assault Brigade. There is also no confirmation regarding this unit either. So it's clear that a very serious battle is now unfolding for Kupiansk, a very serious battle. The situation, just like it was with Dobropillia at the time, will be decided in the near future. For now, we see that the enemy does not have the ability to advance further. That is, all their incursions into the city that have happened so far are not expanding. And what will happen next? Well, that will be shown probably in the near future. Undoubtedly, we will continue to monitor the situation and keep you informed, friends. And with that, I will wrap up today's review and thank you for your attention. You can thank us as well for our work. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and also write your comments right below this video. Take care of yourselves, all the best, and see you next time.